Hello.
You reading today?
No.
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 No, we're not reading.
I am reading a little bit to you, but not very much. I kind of changed my plans.
The changed plans include reading over the weekend. For me, I'm going to throw a fit.
They're not, although I'd like to see you throw a fit. Is Troy here today?
No.
Huh. Weird. Thursday.
Peter Sarah always makes me laugh. Every time I look at it, and I think about him spinning in that girl's face and then dumping the ball on her head.
At some point, I need to show you the firehouse sketch that cracks me up so much.
And the
How much
time
time
when
do
they're
we
doing,
have?
what was it, weekend review?
Weekend update?
Or weekend update, yeah. And John Mulaney comes on, and I still don't know what he says in DeVille's.
Oh, I know what he says.
Oh, what does he say?
He says, "My girlfriend works at Yoshinoya Beef Bowl." It's like so random. Let's see, how long is this? I'm gonna show this to you now because we have like 2.5 minutes.
I love it.
Okay, I showed this to my class particularly because Bryce had a meltdown in my class one day, and it made me think of this.
Well, looks like our little department fundraiser is a big success.
Yeah, if we can just get a couple of new hoses out of it, that would be huge for us.
Uh-oh.
What?
Looks like Jerry's talking to Bryce's ex-girlfriend. Oh, he is not gonna like that.
Really? Bryce seems like such a mellow guy.
Hey, fellas.
Hey, Bryce, you having a good time?
Do I look like I'm having a good time, Clem? Does anyone want to tell me why Jerry's talking to Rula?
Bryce, is it really that big of a deal?
Yeah, actually it is, Mario. She's only my ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Bryce. I'm not following. Did it end badly between you guys?
No, it ended awesome. What do you think? And now he's over there talking to her for like 50,000 minutes.
Okay, calm down.
Hey, Bryce. Hey, guys.
Hello, Judas. Having fun with Rula?
Come on, Bryce. You guys dated a decade ago.
Oh, is 9 years a decade? Did they change it to that? You make me sick! This is how firefighters treat each other! Did you see Backdraft? You should be shunned! Shun him! Shun him! Shun him!
Hey, come on, get out of here, Doug. What are you doing?
Hey, guys. Hey, Bryce.
Oh, hello, Rula!
What are you guys talking about?
What do you think, Nancy Drew? How could you do this to me? We went out for 2 weeks!
Yeah, and then I tried to kiss you and you threw hot tea in my face.
Oh, and so you come to our fundraiser and you shake your little apple butt, you skanky little
Oh, you're fine.
Hey, come on, man. Shut
That's so much fun.
You set this whole party up because you love drama.
Yeah, Clem, you're a drama queen.
I
Doug!
haven't started listening to
Bryce, you're the one being a drama queen. Nothing's going on here.
Yeah, you're right, Jerry, because this party is over.
You just unplugged the humidifier. You clearly just want the attention.
That is a lie, Jerry. Now I'm gonna dance, and no one is invited. Put on my iPod.
Release the baby.
I don't know how he's not dying.
He may be a great firefighter, you guys, but he's a handful.
I've never heard him say those words
He has a
before.
second
Usually
where he like almost
hangs out.
breaks.
He's pretty quiet.
Yeah, until you talk to his woman.
I'm having a meltdown. I don't know which way is up. I'm on the verge of losing it, okay?
Hey, you guys see they just canceled that show Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23?
don't know how to work that.
There it is. Maybe a little bit.
You gotta be kidding me! Where's that stupid dog? Oh, there he is. Open the window! Open the window!
Stupid.
Are you okay, man?
Right there.
I'm out of here. Goodbye, Rula. Jerry. Where's my coat? Give me my coat! In the words of my hero, Miss Mary J. Blige. I'm leaving this firehouse, and I ain't never coming back!
Bryce, you can't leave. You're on duty.
Watch me!
Man, that was totally uncalled for.
You know what? I got the reaction I wanted.
It kills me every time. Okay, I have to start
So
this
what
meeting.
was Bryce freaking out about?
Like real life Bryce?
Yeah.
He just like stopped being able to read
Oh.
and like lost his mind and like was laughing so hard he was crying, and then he excused himself to the bathroom and was just gone for a while. Okay, sorry I was a little bit late, guys. We were watching a clip from Saturday Night Live. I apologize. It was clearly really important.
It was important.
It was. It's one of my favorite clips. When he's just like, shut up, repeatedly. I'm just like, how are you not dying laughing?
Anytime that I think it's so much funnier when he's almost laughing.
Yes.
Trying not to laugh is the funniest thing he does.
He never made it through a Stefan sketch without
No,
laughing.
No, he didn't. And that's why those are so great.
I
is 'cause
know.
They were already my job.
And he would like change something right before
Oh,
Bill
yeah.
went out just to mess with him.
Oh yeah.
All right, we have
I
Ian.
I feel like to an extent he, Bill had no
Christian.
idea what he was going out to.
No. Christian, Brendan, Hayward, not here. Troy, Eli, Nate, Chip.
Did you see Mr. Chip's hair today?
No, I didn't. I haven't seen him.
He's letting them locks breathe.
Ugh. Okay, so no Brendan, no Hayward. We'll see if they show up in a minute. Okay. So I had to kind of change my plans just because I realized that my timeline for stuff didn't really match up. And I really wanted to have read through the end of chapter 16 today. So instead of reading, I'm just going to tell you about chapters 15 and 16. And you can kind of go back, before the test and make sure that you understand everything and that you know what's going on. No test today. I just mean like before we have a test. I don't think anybody's going to mind just not reading two chapters. So let me tell you about chapters 15 and 16. Okay. So where we left off, he's still at the monster is still at the guy's houses, the guy's house, DeLacy, who is the old blind cottager. So he's still there in chapter 15, and he finds, he kind of learned to read sort of with through teaching Safi how to read and teaching her the language. So he finds this bag with a bunch of books in it, including Paradise Lost. And he reads it like it's nonfiction, which kind of reminds me of that movie Galaxy Quest. Y'all ever seen that movie?
Galaxy Quest?
If you haven't seen Galaxy Quest,
It sounds
you
familiar.
need to
What
watch
is
it. You know what? We watched it, I think, when you were in like 8th or 9th grade. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So maybe you saw it too. I don't know. It's that Tim Allen movie where like he's on a Star Trek type show And then these aliens come to Earth and they think that the show was real. It's like historical documents. So they get Tim Allen and all of his friends who are on the show to come to their planet and save them from this bad alien. It's genuinely like one of the funniest movies. My mother loves that movie so much. You remember that?
You need to show me like pictures of it, 'cause I can't remember.
Maybe it was, were you in class when we read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Okay, then no.
It was
Just kidding.
Yeah.
All right, then you didn't. And I know you didn't. So I want to read just a couple of passages from the books to you guys. So after he finds paradise, he finds a few books, and in the chapter, there's like summaries of what he thought of all of them, what he learned from them. But the Paradise Lost one is the most significant, obviously, because it's come up time and time again. He says, Paradise Lost excited different and far deeper emotions. I read it as I had read the other volumes which had fallen into my hands as a true history. It moved every feeling of wonder and awe that the picture of an omnipotent God warring with his creatures was capable of exciting. I often referred the several situations as their similarity struck me to my own. Like Adam, I was apparently united by no link to any other being in existence, but his state was far different from mine in every other respect. He had come forth from the hands of God, a perfect creature, happy and prosperous, guarded by the especial care of his creator. He was allowed to converse with and acquire knowledge from beings of a superior nature, but I was wretched, helpless, and alone. Many times I considered Satan as the fitter emblem of my condition, for often, like him, when I viewed the bliss of my protectors, the bitter gall of envy rose within me.
We kind of talked about that.
We did talk about that. So when he reads this book, he sees himself in Adam, which is a pretty apt comparison. Like he was created from this God, from nothing. But he sees more of himself in Satan, who'd been like cast out by his creator. You guys are making me nervous.
Okay.
This like circle around me, and you're also not 6 feet from me.
I just like standing. Apparently we're all standing all the time.
And so after he reads those, when he left Victor's place, he stole some clothes because he was naked. Also much like Adam. And I don't know why. It is an Adam thing, yeah. I don't know why he hasn't thought to look in his pockets before now, but he finally looks in the pockets of the coat he's wearing, and he finds Victor's journal. And Victor's written everything down that he studied and he went through. So he starts to understand how he was created and how much Victor despised him. He says, everything is related in them which bears reference to my accursed origin. The whole detail of that series of disgusting circumstances which produced it is set in view. The minutest description of my odious and loathsome person is given in language which painted your own horrors and rendered mine indelible. I sickened as I read, hateful day when I received life. I exclaimed in agony, accursed creator, why did you form a monster so hideous that even you turned from me in disgust? God in pity made man beautiful and alluring after his own image, but my form is a filthy type of yours, more horrid even from the very resemblance. Satan has had his companions, fellow devils, to admire and encourage him, but I am solitary and abhorred. So it makes him feel horrible. Of course it does, reading about how much he was hated. One sec. And so his hope here is that he'll be able to reveal himself to the cottagers and they'll be nice because he knows that they are good people. He's been observing them for like longer than a season, so several months at this point. And he has a lot of affection for them, but they don't know who he is. They've never seen him. So he's hoping that if he can just explain things to them, that they'll understand and be kind. And he's like, let me go after the old man first. He's blind. He won't be able to see me. If I can explain like what's going on with me, then, maybe I can get him on my side and he can explain to the others before they see me.
Isn't the movie and the book totally different at this way?
The movie, yeah, like the original movie is. The movie that we'll watch does this part really well, actually. And I'll be excited to watch that with you guys. So he does, and he goes in and he when everybody else is gone and the old man is there at home. Oh, let me get Brendan in here. Brendan Freeman, sure enough. Brendan, I'm kind of recapping a couple of chapters that I'm just going to have y'all not read because my own schedule was kind of thrown off a little bit. So the monster is like wanting to reveal himself to the cottagers, and he reveals himself to DeLacy, the blind old man, thinking he can't see me. He can't, you know, he's not going to be terrified of me. And he talks to the old man and kind of explains his situation. It's like, I have these friends, but they don't know who I am. And I want to reveal myself to them. And being blind, the old man's like, yeah, that totally makes sense. Like, you seem like a nice person. Why would you not reveal yourself? And he kind of explains that, you know, he's very ugly, very deformed. And the old man's like, that shouldn't matter. Like, you're fine. And I think you should do it. I think you should reveal yourself to these people. So just at that point, the family comes home and like they bust in the door and the monster's like, no, you're the friend I met. Can you tell them? And he like can't get it out because Agatha faints on the spot. Safie runs out of the house and Felix starts beating him with a stick. Probably thinking that he was trying to like attack the old man or something, to be honest. But who's that supposed to be?
Huh?
Who's that supposed to be?
It's right.
Okay,
So,
I see.
the thing order, you know, it's supposed to be.
When was the monster made? It's been more than a season, because he was there the whole winter, and now it's coming on spring. So,
Speaking of wine,
oh, when was Frankenstein written? Let's check. Well, that doesn't help me. It says copyright 2015. That's not accurate. Not today. When was Frankenstein? Fudge. 1817. Yeah, time doesn't mean anything. Time's not real. So he's obviously like horribly hurt and upset, thinking that these people who were his only chance at having friends have cast him out. I'd be very curious to know what the conversation was like after he left, but we don't get to see that.
I read, there was a story, it was late at night on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
I was bored, totally got bored. And it was like this blonde girl had a boyfriend that could see. And it was like, if she could see him, she would marry. And then she was like, 2 weeks, she had surgery and she could see now. And she asked her boyfriend, her boyfriend asked her, will you marry me? And she was like, ew, you're blind too. And then he sent her a letter that like last week and was like, just make sure you take care of your eyes for me.
What?
So,
That's sad.
so.
That's an upsetting story. Yeah, 1817. I don't know. Troy says that's earlier than he thought.
There you go.
Nice. So chapter 16, being so like brokenhearted from this, he just decides that he's going to revenge himself against all humans and Victor in particular, because all this is Victor's fault, and I don't disagree with him. Yes, let me write you a pass. A bucket of farts, Chip. Proxy pass, Charles Robeson. We have another Charles in this school. He's in middle school. All right, you're good. So he starts heading towards Geneva, which is where Victor lives. He like finds that out from his journal. He starts heading towards Geneva, thinking he's going to get revenge. Along the way, he sees this little girl drowning and he saves her. But the man who is with her thinks that he's attacking her, so he shoots him. Like, this monster just can't catch a break. And then he finds William playing in the woods, and he doesn't know who he is at first. And in fact, at first he's like, oh, this is a young kid. He probably doesn't have the same prejudices that everyone else does. He doesn't know that deformity is something that people are upset about. Like, he won't hate me like other people do. But kids are scared of monsters, and the kid freaks out. And so while the kid is freaking out, he calls him an ugly wretch and an ogre. And he's like, do you know who my father is? My father is Alphonse Frankenstein, and he's going to have a fit when he sees what you're doing to me. And so Victor does two things. Number one, he thinks Frankenstein's relatives, this is my perfect opportunity to get revenge. And the second thing is he strangles William to death. Awesome. he kind of kills him in order to shut him up, just because he's like screaming and freaking out. But once he kills him, he feels triumphant about it. He's like, that was awesome. And when Victor finds out that I've killed his brother, he's going to be so upset. And I love the idea that I can destroy him emotionally the way that I have been destroyed emotionally. I can cause grief, I can cause despair, and I'm going to. It's messed up.
But he is a monster.
He is a monster, and he has not had any good like influences teaching him how to be a compassionate person. So yeah. So he, like, as he's standing there over William's dead body, he sees the necklace, which, if you'll recall, was what convicted Justine of his murder. They found the necklace on her and was like, well, he was the last person to have it, so she must have killed him and taken it for herself. And so the monster takes it, mostly just because there's a picture of Victor's mother in it, and he thinks she's really pretty. But then he's looking for shelter, and he comes across Justine sleeping in this little shelter, and he thinks she is also very lovely. But in a super weird, twisted, kind of toxic turn of events, he's like, she could never give me the love that I would seek from her, so she should suffer. And even more than that, she should be the one to pay for my crimes. So he intentionally plants the locket on her, knowing that she'll be convicted of William's murder. It's very, very smart, but very messed up. And then he comes to the end of his tale. He had learned how to work mischief. He left the necklace on her. And this is the last paragraph of the chapter. He said, well, my creator's mom is very pretty. And then he also said his creator's friend, servant, whatever, is also, he actually didn't know that Justine was like connected to the Frankenstein family, but he was just like, she's a lovely woman and she could never give me the affection that I want, so she should die. So he convicted her for the murder. So this is the last paragraph of this chapter, and it's very important because we find out, if y'all remember at the beginning when the monster started telling his story, he was like, listen to my story, I'm going to ask something of you, and if you give me what I want, we can leave in peace. I'll go away from the society of man. I will exile myself. You'll never hear from me again. If you don't give me what I want, I'm going to murder you and everybody you know and make your life terrible. And so some of y'all have speculated about what you think he's going to ask. We're about to find out. This last paragraph says, for some days I haunted the spot where these scenes had taken place, sometimes wishing to see you, Victor, sometimes resolved to quit the world and its miseries forever. At length I wandered toward these mountains and have ranged through their immense recesses, consumed by a burning passion which you alone can gratify. We may not part until you have promised to comply with my requisition. I am alone and miserable. Man will not associate with me, but one as deformed and horrible as myself would not deny herself to me. My companion must be of the same species and have the same defects. This being you must create. So that's what he wants. He wants a lady monster. He wants a Mrs. Frankenstein's monster. She needs to be deformed in the same way that he is, because only somebody who is also a monster like him could feel his pain, yeah, and could identify with him and could share feelings. People need people. And that's okay. I think that that's a totally reasonable thing to think. The only thing is, Victor's life has really gone off the rails since he created this first monster. And now he's being asked to create a second one. And he feels, obviously because the monster's ugly. He doesn't like him. But he also immediately felt like, what have I done? It's not something he's going to be super inclined to repeat. But the monster is kind of saying, you know, if you, can you let Chip in? The monster is kind of saying, if you do this, then we'll be fine. We'll go off into the mountains or whatever and not be around anybody else. If you don't do it, then I'm going to make your life miserable and kill everybody you love. So what you just missed was what the monster's request actually was, which was for a lady monster.
Lady monster.
Because that's the only person that could feel his pain, that could identify with him. He's like, if I'm going to have human connection with anybody, it's got to be somebody who is the same as me.
I was thinking about it. Sometimes when I'm having a bad day, I do feel like I was living my fart bucket. I was really thinking about what does fart bucket
Fart bucket is what the hallways sometimes smell like in here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
In middle school, we're trying to walk like this.
So we're going to think through his options here. Or we're going to try to. Can you press source and HDMI 3? It's going to work. There we go. Okay. Oh, I'm frozen. Also, let me end your pass while I'm thinking about it. Okay, so we're going to think through Victor's options here, because obviously this is a big ask. He's got several options, and we're going to think through them together. We're going to think through the pros and cons. Good, we have plenty of time. Yes. Yeah, look at there.
Can I see the report? Oh, no.
Well, let me share the screen with them and see if they can.
The force is with me.
I don't think they can. Oh, I'm frozen. Hang on.
I did go.
Come on. Piece of garbage. Let's. Whoop.
Is she losing her temper? Is she saying a piece of garbage?
Is it working now? No. Can you guys like see me moving, or is it just my screen that's frozen?
You're moving now.
Okay, we're good. All right. So he's got a few options here. He's got 5 options. If you guys can think of any more options, run it by me. He can make the lady monster. He can choose to not make the lady monster. He can say he'll do it, but not do it. He could say that he'll do it, but gather up a posse to hunt the monster in the meantime and get rid of him. Or he could choose to make amends with the creature and have a real relationship. And those are kind of the options that we have here. So let's kind of think through some of the pros and cons, and I'll open the chat so that you guys can contribute if you don't want to talk. So if he makes the lady monster, what good can come of that? What are some pros?
Possibilities. He might be happy.
Monster could be happy. And think about, like, what is Victor going to be thinking? Chip, put your phone away.
Charles. Probably.
I mean, that's a good pro, but there's definitely lots more. Think about his original kind of conundrum here. If he does it, the monster will leave.
He doesn't have
Right.
anyone who gets it.
No, he doesn't. But we're thinking through Victor's options here.
Oh, Victor's options.
If he makes the lady monster, what good's going to come of that?
Oh, the monster would leave him alone.
That's the big one. Monster would leave him alone.
Monster and lady monster can go live in a cave.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
Any other pros to this one?
I don't know. I don't guess did he enjoy making the monster? Maybe.
Well, he regretted it afterwards.
Right.
But you know what? I could say like it made him feel powerful to be able to do it. So he could kind of regain a sense of power. But what are some cons there?
Oh, the monsters could be
He makes more
they
monsters.
can feel the more pain and they can just take over. Like how people like how these crazy people think robots are gonna take over the world.
Yeah. You know, there's also this thing where the monster's kind of counting on the lady monster giving him affection.
Yeah.
Might not happen. Death and destruction ensue if she doesn't.
I mean, that's just like any guy ever.
Yeah,
The lady monster
basically.
doesn't like him. Death and destruction ensue.
He's got to ruin everything for everybody. And then also there's the fact that he will have created another, like, unnatural creation.
Like death and despair ensue. The lady monster doesn't like him.
Despair for him, but if the
No, I
monster
mean for,
doesn't
like,
get
when
what
a
he
real
wants,
guy- when the
Oh,
lady
yeah.
monster doesn't like the real guy, it's just
Yeah.
death and despair.
it might be destruction of like personal property, like punching a wall or
Right,
something.
or just destruction of like personal health.
Yes.
There's a whole
Don't make the monster.
A hole in your what?
Pros, no
Oh.
monsters. No more monsters. Cons, one particularly angry monster.
Probably murder everyone.
Probably murder everyone.
He basically promised that he would. Like, if you don't do it, then I'm gonna kill everybody.
Your mama can't
Agree to make the monster, but don't do it. Oh gosh, why would you?
I mean, okay,
Yeah.
so
I don't even think choice 3 will work because
Yeah,
he's
the-
smart, right?
yes,
No,
he is. Like he should figure it out. The monster, yeah, Eli, the monster has already killed his sibling, his little brother, and it's his fault that Justine was killed because he framed her for William's murder. But he's also promised that he's going to keep killing everybody that Victor loves if he doesn't give him what he wants. So agreeing to make the monster but not doing it, I would say a big con of that would be like losing the monster's trust, which is gonna make even, yeah. What did I just say?
You will be upset. You will be spaghetti.
Yeah. Oh, lose the.
Monster stress.
Why can't I spell? Lose creature's trust. Jesus. I don't know why creature's trust really didn't work out. Lose the creature's trust and make him angry. I mean, obviously a pro is, again, no more monsters. He knew that William was related to him because as he was like grappling with him, William was like, do you know who my father is? My father is Alphonse Frankenstein. He's going to be very upset about this. And then he was like, oh, snap.
Oh, really?
Well, I'm gonna murder you then. And he didn't know that Justine was that she knew Victor or anything, but he was just like, this is a pretty girl and she should suffer because she'll never be able to give me affection, which is a horrible thing to think. Okay, he could agree to make the monster, but gather up a posse to hunt the monster in the meantime. I don't think that's a bad option, but
Pros. Probably get the monster.
probably be able
Probably get the monster.
to get the monster.
Cons,
Get. Capture.
He's not gonna do that.
Mostner.
Mostner.
Cons. You might not get him.
Might not.
He'll be
Might not
very
get him.
angry.
Also, you know,
Might be a lot of murder.
if he's trying to like capture or like gather up a posse, he's got to explain what's going on to
Yeah.
everybody. And his whole thing, like the reason he
Yeah.
hasn't told anybody in the first
So I
place
needed a
is because
month.
he doesn't think anybody would believe him.
I need you to come help. He's broke. Or how much are you charging?
They commence with the creature and have a real relationship. Pros, happily ever after. Cons,
Oh my God.
the monster still exists. It's still gross. Yeah, there you go.
I mean, Victor seems to care a lot about that, and so does everybody else, apparently. And also, it
See,
might
now
not.
This monster right here, I don't think he's that gross.
He's not that gross.
No.
I think they do a good job in the movie that we're gonna watch
Of making him
of
gross.
making him, yeah, kind of scary.
That's annoying.
All right, so we've got a lot of options here. What would you guys do? What would your choice be?
Build him a monster girlfriend.
Just do it. Just build him
I'd
one.
Build him a monster girlfriend.
Build him a monster girlfriend.
Go meet wishy-washy. Go back to that. Yeah, I would absolutely just build him a monster girlfriend. That would be freaking precious.
I mean, then it is like two ugly monsters. Oh, that's actually a good one. The lady monster might want revenge on Victor too. Like, we're making a lot of assumptions here about how this lady monster is going to feel,
That's true.
and we don't know.
Well, look, this was the 1800s, so I'm not even allowed to think, so it's okay.
That's very true. And if you look at the women in the book, their roles are very flat.
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot to them. They're just like good, lovely people.
But I mean, that's true to the times, you know.
Of how they were perceived. Yeah, you would think that Victor loves Elizabeth so much. You would think that his descriptions of her would be a little bit different. It's also really interesting that a woman wrote this. You think someone looked up the ending to the book and said the answer? The answer to what?
Christian probably said it, you know.
I mean, somebody did guess, at least one person guessed that he was going to ask them to make a companion, which was accurate. Okay. I'm going to head over
I said
to,
something about a companion.
maybe
I
so.
think that was because I read something on Sparkments that I kind
makes
of
sense.
felt that inspiration.
Okay, so I told you guys previously that you're going to have another essay coming up. So this is it.
No.
Based on the think through all these things. I'll provide a link to this pro con list, and actually in just a minute I can look back at last year's too, because I think they came up with more things, more pros and cons. But decide what you think you would do and write a persuasive essay convincing the reader, me, whether Victor Frankenstein should concede to the monster's condition or not. So this is what?
Your calendar, April 23rd, Nate's college decision.
I will put that on my calendar. This is a full essay complete with introduction, thesis, and conclusion. I want to remind you that just because this is a personal opinion doesn't mean it's less of an academic paper. So we're going to talk more about that, and I think we have time to talk about it today, which is great. But those academic papers typically don't include a lot of personal pronouns like I believe, I think, that kind of thing.
Oh, do you know about that?
About what? Drawing on the board?
Yeah.
I really don't ever use it.
I use it in the class.
Argumentative papers assume that your opinion is the correct one and you're trying to convince the reader of that fact. Your thesis should include the reasons you believe your opinion is the correct one, and the body paragraphs should reflect that. Well, Eli, what I just said was when he came across William, he didn't know that William was his brother. He just knew that it was a little kid. And at first he was even like, oh, I won't hurt this kid because he's so young and innocent and he won't be afraid of me. But he was afraid of him and he started freaking out. And as William was freaking out, he was like, my father is Alphonse Frankenstein and he's going to come at you for this. And so he was like, oh, okay, well, and he knew who Frankenstein was because of his journal. So he probably knew from that his dad's name was Alphonse, but even if he didn't, he would have been like, well, that's the same family. yes, he said he's gonna kill everyone that Victor loves. So he is gonna, I mean, a little bit of a spoiler alert, he's gonna be following Victor around a little bit. He's gonna be paying attention to see like who the important people in his life are. And he's gonna keep a close eye on him. And he probably knows some of that from the journal as well. Okay, so the first thing, I know, Troy, I completely agree. And that's a very astute thing to observe. Like movies and media, especially this kind of Frankenstein, they really just show him as like a monster with no real emotions. He can't even talk in this version of Frankenstein. The real monster is very articulate and very complex, and he really just wants to be loved. He even says, like, when he, in the first chapter where he was talking, he was like, I would not have been this way. I wouldn't be the monster that I am if I hadn't experienced so much misery. But because I have, that's what makes me want to get revenge on everybody. So I gave you 2 resources here. We're going to go through the first one really quick. The second one will take a little bit longer. But this is just kind of an organization tool. And I figure most of you will this will be pretty second nature to a lot of you guys. But this is just an easy way to kind of organize your thoughts here. In your introduction, you would give your thesis that you're too close to me.
On the board. And we can't see it.
Wait, am I, because I'm frozen up there?
Oh, you are? Oh, no, you're
Yeah.
not.
It should show up in a minute.
We need to, like,
No, you're fine. It just needs to take a minute. It's probably taking more effort because you guys are doing stuff at the board.
maybe.
Did that work? No. Well, the board's not working, but I know you guys can see it. So with this, in the introduction, you would give your thesis that specifically says whether, like, which option you would take, whether you would make the monster, whether you would not, whether you try to get together a group to hunt him. How could he kill people he loves if he has seen what they look like in order to kill who he said he will? I'm not quite sure I understand what you're asking, but he's going to follow Victor around, and Victor is in Geneva now with his family. So he's just going to see firsthand who's important to Victor.
Oh, I was thinking that he wasn't. I was thinking about a little earlier when he said that first. I thought that he was just going to kill them by just knowing, and that didn't make sense to me.
Gotcha. And so we came up with some pros and cons, and I might actually, if I have time, look back at some of last year's answers too, because they're really, they came up with a lot of stuff. But like, if you decide that you would create a lady monster, your first reason could be because the monster says he'll leave us alone, or that he will leave Victor alone if we do this. The second one, your second reason might be he really enjoyed the sense of power that he got when he created the first monster, and he would want to further that. And then in the facts or examples, you can kind of call back on the book and say, like, what's led you to that conclusion. Quickly before we look at this other one, history, I want, not 2021. Snap. That's not what I want. Oh, you did?
It's like whenever we draw, you start freeze. Whenever we draw.
Oh,
then you
yeah.
go to here, close, exit.
I see. So last year's group came up with a few more. Obviously, with making the lady monster, it means that he won't be killed. No one he loves will be killed. The monster will leave him alone, which is what we said, and it'll probably relieve some guilt. But he might still be murdered. Everyone he knows might still be murdered. He's gonna be hounded by the monster until he does this. The lady monster could kill the monster. She might reject him like everyone else has. They could procreate and have a little race of monsters. Who's to say?
I doubt that makes sense.
I don't know.
Gosh, how smart would Victor have to be?
I mean, he's created life. It's not.
I know, but like to create life that can create life,
I know.
that's.
This is a good point, actually. The monster could keep asking for things. Like he might get what he wants and then decide that's not enough. Maybe he wants him to build him a kid, you know?
Trying to fill a void, you can't.
The monster is trying to fill a void and he can't. Twice the vengeance, twice the murder. I like the phrase of that. I feel like maybe Preston came up with that last year. If he doesn't make the monster, he's not going to let his emotions get the best of him, although maybe he will. He might still be just like kind of wallowing around in his own self-pity. No more monster, no chance of monster babies. Victor won't make himself sick with worry about what he's done. He'll feel like he might feel like he took the moral high road, but everyone might die, including his family. If he agrees to make the monster, but he doesn't, he can maybe hold the monster off for a while and buy him some time to come up with another plan. But if he doesn't do it, the monster might get that much more angry and wreak such vengeance.
I ought to give him a deadline. If he didn't set a deadline each day, if everyone would die.
He needs a deadline. And that actually does become kind of a thing later. If Victor can't come up with anything better, like, is he just going to keep buying time forever? That doesn't work.
You can buy time, but you can't buy from me.
Eventually he's going to have to make some kind of decision. So he could agree to make the monster, but gather up a posse. The pros to that, he might actually kill the monster. If people see the monster first, they would be terrified and absolutely want to murder him. Victor doesn't even really have to admit that he made this monster. He could possibly get out of it scot-free. If he's just like, I have found this monster who is murdering my family members. Maybe everybody else would just be on board. I don't know. If it doesn't work, though, it's going to be a bloodbath. Like, more people than just Victor's family might die. They might not believe him. The monster could be manipulative and even make people turn against Victor. He could kill those people first, the villagers. If the monster hears about that plan first, he might just go ahead and murder everybody. Or if they see him, they might get scared and chicken out. And I think this is a really interesting option, making amends with the creature and having a real relationship. He might not feel like he needs a lady monster anymore. What he really wants is affection. And if he could get that from Victor, his parent figure, maybe he'd be all right. Maybe he wouldn't kill anybody else. And then Victor would get to relieve his guilt and everybody would be safe. But the monster might not forgive him at this point and he could wind up double crossing him. Okay, so we only have a few minutes left, but I want to draw your attention to this other resource that I gave you guys, the top 10 essay mistakes, which is a thing that I show every class every year at some point. Top 10 essay, come on.
You could have just click on the link.
I could have, but sometimes it opens things and like downloads more copies. Yes, you can. Okay, so I'm just going to run through these really quickly because we're running out of time.
By ISIS.
The first thing is
What?
in this essay, I can't pay attention to that right now. In this essay, that's the last thing a teacher ever wants to read. Like, in this essay, I will talk about, y'all aren't in 4th grade, y'all are seniors, you can do better than that. I would advise you guys to read this in more detail, but I'm going pretty quickly because we have 10 to go through. This is just kind of a formatting thing. Sometimes people want to write like one long paragraph, and that is very confusing. It's not organized. It looks like you didn't spend any time organizing, but it's also really difficult and boring for teachers to read. Exclamation points. That's a thing that people struggle with sometimes, just like putting emotion into their papers. And we're really striving for a scholarly academic tone. That's like, it's fine to text people with like 7 exclamation points, but for the most part, you're going to have declarative sentences here. This is on Canvas, yes. Also, like all caps, and I kind of put this under the exclamation point thing. It's another thing where we're just like putting a lot of emotion into the paper, and you don't need to. Basically, anything you would only write in a text has no place in an academic paper, and that also counts with slang words. Just keep that stuff in text messages. If it doesn't answer the prompt, that's a big issue. If you write about how dumb you think Victor is, that's not answering the question. You got to actually answer it. Sentence fragments, they're okay to use in creative writing sometimes, but definitely not in academic or professional writing. This is kind of similar to number one, the personal pronoun thing. I think, particularly in thesis statements, students will often write stuff like, I think the voting age should be raised to 21
The voting
because
age should be raised to 21 because you are
That's-
confident in yourself. This is a fact.
it's
you.
you should say it like it's a fact though.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like if you write, I think that the voting age should be raised to 21, it's kind of like, well, who cares what you
I don't
think?
care. Yeah, exactly.
Like, who are you?
Dang, that's crazy. Don't care.
Just
Move on.
say it. The voting
voting
age
age.
should be raised to 21, or Victor should create a lady monster because
I forgot 18.
your whole essay is about what you think because you're the one writing it. You don't need to reiterate that you're the one that thinks that.
Oh my gosh,
Second person is a weird
there's on the
thing.
back of it.
Yeah, there's stuff on the back of all of them. Second person is a weird thing. Like you very rarely hear about second person narrators. You usually hear about first or third. But yes, you can keep going. It's just weird. It's not broken. It's just weird. No, you don't get a prize. I don't even know anything about Sudoku. Second person is usually reserved for instruction manuals and choose your own adventure books. Sometimes second person can be useful like in a hook at the beginning of an essay, like how many hours per day do you spend on social media? For the average American, that number is higher than you might imagine. That'd be an appropriate place for it. That's also a pretty appropriate place to use first person if you're going to, like if you use a personal anecdote that emphasizes your argument. That's not going to really apply very much to this essay because none of you have ever created a monster. So that I know of. Trying to sound too fancy, that can be a big one. I can think of at least 2 students who still go here that have had issues with this in the past. I've only
Dominic is
read
the other
one.
one.
He's much better about it now. When we talk about formal essays, sometimes people think that you should try to sound very fancy and formal and use this very elevated language, but sometimes it winds up just sounding like you're really trying too hard. You want to sound natural. You just want to sound academic. Not proofreading. That one should be pretty obvious. You want to make sure that you look over it before. And then restating your introduction and your conclusion. And that's something that kids get taught when they're younger. And it's fine to reiterate, but you don't want to just put the same sentence in your conclusion that you have in your introduction. You've already said it. Try to come at it in a different way. Try to reframe it and reiterate it without just regurgitating your thesis statement. And then when you look back at this later, this is an email that Bryce wrote me one time that tried to use all 10 because he's the worst. All right, I gotta let you guys go, but the clock is not right. What the heck? Or the bells aren't on. But I will see y'all next week. Bye.